everyone, my name is James Nicholson. I'm a realtor with the Smart Move group of the Keller Williams Realty Center here in Columbia near Fort Meade. And today I wanted to go over the home buying process so people can understand all the nuances that go into it. So the first thing you do is you meet with your agent and you discuss your plan and what it is you want and where you want to go and when you want to do it. The next step is you enter an agreement that clearly defines the relationship between you and your agent and what it is you're supposed to be doing as a buyer and what the agent is supposed to be doing for you as a buyer. You need to clearly define your duties. The next step, they would say, is determining your purchasing power. So in other words, talking to a lender. Now, all agents, they usually have a preferred lender or many preferred lenders. Some specialize in different areas and they have different packages. I work mostly with veterans, so I would recommend talking to at least 3 lenders. Shop their rates because that's the only way you're going to get the best rate. And you may not like every agent with every rate and every package. Once you get your pre-approval, let's say it's $500,000. That does not mean that you need to buy a house at $500,000. You need to find out what you are comfortable with paying monthly for a mortgage and then ask the lender what amount of house can you buy with that mortgage price. So let's say you get pre-approved for $500,000 and the mortgage is $4,000 a month. And you're comfortable with 3. So maybe you want to be looking at houses in the $350,000 range. So at this point, once you have your pre-approval, then you can really analyze what needs and wants and desires you have based on that pre-approval, because they may have changed from when you first talked. If you thought you were going to be buying in the $600,000 neighborhood, but you're pre-approved for $500,000, there's not much planning around getting you to a higher amount unless you have like a family member that's going to give you more money, or you got a raise, or the rate somehow went down. But if you're only pre-approved for a certain amount, and you need to buy in a certain period of time and you're still pre-approved for that amount, then you can only buy really at that amount. So once you figure out where you want to be, when you want to be there, and you have your strategy, the next step is you tour properties together. So many different clients and agents, they communicate differently. So not every agent is good with every client and vice versa. So in terms of touring properties together, I may send you my app. I may put your criteria into a local MLS and just send you a list every day. I may set you up on a certain list where I get to see all the listings and only I approve what you can see. You may even be a mix of all those things. Some people, they go, even though I set them on a list and I give them an app and I send them specific homes, they'll send me homes from Zillow and Redfins and all the other Z's and R's and all the different websites saying, hey, I found this on this website. Can we go see it? And a lot of times it's not even in the criteria, or it is on the list, they just didn't see it, or it's not even active because different websites have different reasons for listing prices the way they do, or putting different estimates, or even their status on whether they're active or not. Some may have a delay. They are actually under contract, but you're getting it. You're like, hey, it says active. And it's like, yeah, but I can see the MLS and the public portal, and it says that it's under contract. So unfortunately, you can't see it. So just some of those websites, again, how do they get paid? You have to think about that. So once we find the homes, we set up a time and a list to go see them. And before you go see them, usually I may go through the list and go, well, you said you wanted an acre and this only has half an acre. Is that something you're okay with? And you said you wanted this level of schools, or you want this specific school, but this isn't that school district. So just things that I may bring up, because some people, they just want to go look at homes, but the reality is you want to get into a home that you want to be in. And I have a lot of other clients, just like a lot of other agents. So it may be a waste of time for you to go see homes that you can't afford, or you had no interest in buying to begin with. And it also distracts you from the actual house that you're looking for. Once you find a home, the next step is, what are you going to do with that home? You have to decide the elements of your offer in terms of like price, deposit, the dates, inspections, and every seller's different, every buyer's different. There's also what's every buyer and seller is different. And what I mean by that is some sellers are way overpriced and they're going to stay at that price, and no one's going to tell them their house is worth any different, and they may never sell unless you want to buy that house at way over market value. Or maybe it's the house has been on the market for a long time and the seller is desperate. You may have negotiating power in that circumstance. Or another one is if you there's multiple offers. It's really who wants the house the most. So if I'm a seller and I have 10 offers, it's not going to be the one that's asking for closing help under the asking price. It's going to be the one that, gives me the highest price with the least amount of headaches. Once we decide those key elements, I'm going to prepare that offer for you. Either I myself will prepare it, or I'll have an admin write up the contract and we'll both look over them together. And then when you're ready to sign, we'll go through that contract explaining everything in the contract, what applies to you and what doesn't apply to you. Once I have that offer, I then present it to the agent. Normally, I'm making calls before we ever write the offer. I want to get to know the agent. I want to know what's important to the seller. Everyone says, oh, more money. It's like, yes, okay, more money. But, rent backs, certain contingencies may be important to them. And some people, it's not all about the money. Sometimes it's just about getting rid of the contingencies. And, that's my job to kind of pull that out of the listing agent in terms of buying. Once you get your offer accepted, and there may be some back and forth at first, maybe a little change in the date here or there, maybe a difference in price, maybe an addendum addressing some kind of short in the appraisal. And it depends on both sides. I'm not here to tell you what to do. You're the driver, you're the coach, you're the boss. I'm just here to advise you. Once you're under contract, then there's certain timelines. The first timeline would be your earnest money deposit. So you need to submit your EMD within the time frame allotted. The second one is usually inspections. You want to get an inspection. Let's say you have a 7-day time period for inspections. That means you have to get inspections and request repairs or cancel within that time frame, depending on your contract. The next step is usually reading HOA or condo documents, if there are HOA or condo documents. Usually the last step is the appraisal. Whether it comes in at value, most of them do, but it again depends on the contract. If you have multiple offers and you get $100,000 over, you might get into a situation where you need to cash that check personally, not from the lender. After the inspections, though, there is a negotiating repair time period. So if you have a 7-day time period where you can request repairs, but the seller doesn't agree with them or wants to credit you some money, usually there's a back and forth with response times. Maybe the seller gets 5 days to decide. Once they decide, you have 2 days to respond to that. Then the seller, either you accept it or you don't, you get out of the contract. Okay, so then after the appraisal, if the financing is good, you get the clear to close, all the inspections are good, you're good with the HOA, and you send those documents back. The last step is really the final walkthrough. You're going through the property. You want to see if they made all the repairs, if the property's in the same condition or better condition than when you first bought it, or there's something in the house that you thought you were getting but you didn't realize the seller was taking with them, like the washer and dryer. Chandeliers seems to be an interesting one that I've run into a couple times. I'll never forget them. Then after the walkthrough, then you go to the title company. And in Maryland, if you're not familiar with this term, we're actually called a wet state, meaning as soon as you sign the deed and the seller signs, while the ink is still wet, you are now the owner of that home. And then they record the deed, and then you get the keys at closing and you move in, unless there was some kind of rent back period. And then after funding and once you sign and you get those keys, you just move into the property and it's yours. So that's basically the home buying process. There's a lot of nuance inside. It's a very simple process. Meet your agent, get pre-approved, find a house, figure out the details, get the offer accepted, inspect the house, look at the HOA, look at the get an appraisal done, negotiate repairs, get clear to close, and then you do a final walkthrough and then you close on the property. There could be lots of things that go back and forth. Maybe a seller did 50 of the 53 repairs, and then maybe you want to put money in escrow, or you want to get it situated before you go to closing. All those things are different. But the simple process, again, I'll just reiterate it. Meet your agent, get your funding, find the house, inspect the house, check any little details, get the house appraised, close on the house. It's pretty much that simple. So my name is James Nicholson. I was a veteran I was in the Army as a medic for 10 years. I specialize in VA loans. I'm on the Smart Move group of the Keller Williams Realty Center here in Columbia. If you have any questions, my number is 443-822-3513. I hope this is helpful. Thank you.